Sean, always appreciate the time. We'll get to some individuals, certainly, but how about just the totality of your 20-player draft class? I'm looking at the notes here: 7 right-handed pitchers, 2 left-handed pitchers, 2 catchers, 7 infielders, 2 outfielders, 17 college guys, 3 high school guys. Just what stands out about the totality of your draft class?
Yeah, you get to the end of the draft and look back, and as the picks are going, there's so much information being thrown my direction on which way to go or that way to go. So I get up, they hand me the sheet, and it shows we took a lot of infielders and pitchers. So excited about all of them. I think we always try to play towards the strength of what the draft has to offer. And so if the pitching's there, we're going to lean that way, especially day 2 and 3. If it's not, we'll take some performers with the bat. And you can never have enough catching. We've never had too much catching since I've been a Twin. So you always want to round out your org with quality catching prospects, and I think we did that as well to start day 3. And going back to day 1, that was as good as outcome as we could have expected and anticipated. Probably beyond what we even dreamed would be an actual option for us. So,
yeah, I mean, let's piggyback on that. So let's go back to Sunday. Just how surprising was it that 2 pitchers, like when we talked pre-draft, it didn't sound like you thought any pitchers would go above like even the top 10, 11, 12 maybe, but certainly you thought that every pitcher would be on the board when you guys selected at 8, but lo and behold, 2 pitchers go above you, where at 3 and at 7. So like, just how crazy was that on Sunday night?
Yeah, you realize that unless you're picking one, you just don't know how the board's going to fall, and you're at the mercy of that part of the element of the entire process. So the only way we thought maybe a pitcher would go is on some sort of deal, maybe under slot or but I know the industry, especially us, we had looked at a lot of hitters in the first 10, 12. I thought that could have been the outcome as well. So you really just never know until they start the draft and they start picking what's going to actually happen. So in this case, I think with Rocker going 3 and Horton going at 7, if those 2 pitchers don't go in line, I don't know if Brooksley gets to us at 8. You just never know, but we'll take it.
Let's say you had the number 1 pick. Would Brooksley have been in the mix at 1?
I think he certainly would have been in the conversation, no doubt. I know we really like the high school hitters up at the very top of the board, so he certainly would have been in the conversation, yes.
So, I mean, to get a guy that would have been in the conversation, to get him at 8, like, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah. So to give you some perspective, we had other options for us at 8. We had up to 15 or 16 different scouts see that player. We had probably half that number on Brooks just because we felt so comfortable with who he was. We've seen him play a lot since high school. And last summer with the USA group, he was one of the better hitters, if not the best hitter in our minds on the board. And then he went back to the Cape, which speaks to his love to play the game. Most guys don't go back, either go to the Cape and then show up at the USA group and they don't come back. Well, he went back and kept playing for Yarmouth Dennis. So it speaks to his character, his drive to play the game and play it at a high level. So we felt really comfortable with who he was as a person, his offensive upside and ceiling, his capabilities on the defensive end as well.
And I mean, he even did a draft workout just a couple days before the draft in Phoenix. Like, he didn't need to do that workout, right? So does that just speak more to his work ethic and his desire?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously he was going to. I can't speak for Brooks. It's a question you can ask him at some other time. But I think that speaks to his want to play and to prove that he should be at the very top of this draft.
He's a switch hitter.
Switch hits, yep. He's done it pretty much his whole life, and I think he gets more at bats like most switch hitters from the left side. So he's probably, I would say, he's got more bat to ball skills from the left side, and he's got a little more power from the right. but he certainly has power from both sides. And I think much like Noah Miller, who was a switch hitter and had a pretty good foundation from both sides of the plate, Brooks is even his hand-eye coordination is really the separator for him. It's not the most classic swing or the most perfect swing you've ever seen, but his adjustability in the box and ability to adjust on the fly. You see good hitters who don't get their best swing off and they still barrel the ball. Brooks does that a lot, which is a rare trait. So the number one thing for us that we're looking for is feel and adjustability, and Brooks has had that since high school.
And on the defensive side, Sean, I mean, start him at shortstop, and like if need be, he could play some second base or third base, but let's just see where it kind of plays out. I mean, there are many examples going back years. Like I remember Miguel Sano, right, in 09 coming out of the Dominican. I mean, he technically was a shortstop. I mean, guys, the best players typically play shortstop, right, at a young age, and if need be, they can always transition later.
Yeah, we think it's more important to draft shortstops if you can, because they have the ability to either stay there or move to second or third or the outfield or wherever, versus taking a corner player who has much limited options down the road. You can't move a first baseman to short, but Louis Arise can play first if he needs to. He can play second. He can play all over. So having that versatility to be able to play different positions gives you a better floor. But Brooks is going to determine whether he plays short or not, and if the big league team up here needs him to play short. So there's so many factors that go into a player actually standing at shortstop in the big leagues for 15 years. And it doesn't really matter to us. It's really about the fact that he's going to be offensive to play around anywhere on the diamond he ends up at, and where the team needs him to play.
Unreal pedigree too, right? Just with his dad's background. I had a fascinating conversation with his dad a couple days ago, just picking his brain, the head coach there at Cal Poly.
Yeah, there's big league bloodlines like the Holidays and the Drew Jones Juniors, and then it's being able to take a player who's been raised by such a legendary college coach who does things the right way and has a great atmosphere there, a real family atmosphere there at Cal Poly that he's developed over the last 20 years, is another draw. And you can tell that Brooks he adores his dad and believes in him, trusts him. They have a great relationship, and he really wanted to go play for his dad first before he made his charge towards the big league. So we respect all of that and really see that as a huge positive, that he's been getting the reps and been in the batting cage when he was 5 years old, hanging out with college players. So he's not going to really be fazed by this next transition in his career because he's already been around it and been exposed to so many things.
Once he officially signs here in the very near future, is there a plan in place? Like, will he go to Fort Myers? Will he go to Cedar Rapids? Will he play at some point the rest of this summer?
I don't know exactly where he'll start. That's Alex Hassan's group. They'll figure that out, the logistics and the roster space. And I think, taking a guy like Brooks, you want to be aggressive because he has proven himself as an accomplished hitter. So I'm sure they'll get him on the fastest track they can. And I know for sure that Brooks wants to play as quickly as he can. And that's not a surprise to me at all, that he can't wait to get back on the field. He doesn't want to sit around. He just wants to get right back to it. So it'll be quick.
All right. If Lee goes pick 7, who's the pick at 8?
I'm still not sure. We had a lot of debate there. So again, we walked through, I don't know how many hours we spent on discussing scenarios with a handful of players who different parts of our room liked more than others. There wasn't a ton of consensus there. Brooks Lee, no problem. That one we all loved and coveted and hoped he would be there. But if that scenario is gone, I don't know which way we would have gone, because there was 3 or 4 names, maybe 5, that were options depending on signability and whatnot. So I don't really want to have to think about that. I'm just glad we got Brooks. So that's all that matters.
I mean, certainly you wanted to optimize, though, a guy that can play, bat-wise and in the field, right? And you probably weren't going to go pitcher. Like if Lee goes 7, probably weren't going to go pitcher at 8. Is that a safe way to kind of lay it out?
It probably would have been another bat, but it would depend on the price tags of the other pitchers we would have considered. So, yeah, I guess to answer your question, we were just so focused on the group that was going to be there, and then the Brooksley surprise made it all those other conversations we had in the past. Week of meeting, they'd all just disappeared rather quickly, which I was excited about. So that's kind of where it landed.